office and kick off the final 8 weeks of our campaign. As our Lieutenant Governor, Gavin has shown bold leadership on the biggest challenges that are facing California. And as our governor, he will continue to lead the state of California in fighting climate change, in improving education at every level, and in ensuring the continued growth of California as a world-class economic powerhouse. So please, give it up for the next governor of the great state of California, Gavin Newsom.
Your next assemblyman of the great county. And by the way, what the hell y'all doing here? It is packed. And it's hot. And this is the coolest campaign headquarters I have been into in years. Man, this is great. So you're all fired up.
Ready to go.
So we just got to keep this going for a few more weeks. But I just want to thank each and every one of you. More importantly than anything else, for being here. As Jen says, for stepping up and stepping into this moment, into this campaign, into this collective cause, the fundamental cause that is the great state of California and the values we represent, and the impact this state has, not just across the rest of this country, but around the world. Indeed. Just think about what Governor Brown just did yesterday, signing that bill to get to 100% renewable energy. All across the planet. You remember, it wasn't that long ago when we announced, President Trump announced we were pulling out of Paris. Right? Now, 5 days later, instead of booing, the governor got in his car, made his way to the airport, flew to Beijing, sat down with President Xi in the presidential palace, not as head of state, but the head of a state, California, and signed a memorandum of understanding basically doubling down on the Paris Accord. What state could do that? That's leadership internationally. That's California. That's what makes this place special. It's an amazing thing. I love to say about this state, we're America's coming attraction. Right? The future happens here first. The sun doesn't just set on your beautiful coast, it rises on your coast. It is a remarkable place, right? A state we love to say and describe as a state of dreamers, of doers, of entrepreneurs, of innovators, a state that prides itself on being on the leading and cutting edge. And that's what's at stake in this election, to maintain that status, to continue the extraordinary growth we have seen in this state by making sure we re-elect Sharon, making sure we elect Cottie, making sure we get the right people in these extraordinary positions of power and influence to keep this work going and to ultimately reconcile this. That you can't talk about growth without also talking about inclusion. And if there's an issue, Democrats, all of us as Democrats, that we have to reconcile, it is that. We talk, and we should talk, about the existential threats of low-carbon green growth realities as it relates to the issue of climate change. But let us not neglect the issue that to me defines all other issues. That we're living in the wealthiest and the poorest state in America. That we are the nation's 5th largest economy, yet we have more people living below the poverty line than any other state in America. 7.4 million people. When you consider the only thing you have to consider, which is the cost of living, living below the poverty line. 46% of our children at or near poverty. I'll repeat that. Almost half of our children at or near poverty. You see the manifestation of our failure, the most acute manifestation, the number of people out in the streets and sidewalks. Everywhere I go. By the way, that issue is such a dominant issue of what has happened to our state. People out there self-medicating with drug or alcohol addiction, with bipolar disorder, schizophrenia, paranoia, all these tents that we're seeing. 134,000 souls that will be out in the streets of California tonight. Quarter of the nation's homeless in our state. And I say all this, Democrats, lovingly and respectfully, that's happened on our watch. We own that. We have got to step up our efforts. We have a unique responsibility, because one thing we know as Democrats, Cottie gets this intuitively, that's why she's in the position she's in, is that we're all better off when we're all better off. Yeah. Right? That's what our party's about. Right? The Commonwealth. Someone said to me the other day, they said, there's no leak on your side of our boat. Right? We rise and fall together. So we have to reconcile this, but we need to, in the spirit of this county in particular, we need to do it in a way that doesn't begrudge other people's success. So what I love about Cottie in her background, there's an entrepreneurial part of her background. There's an entrepreneurial energy. She's about startups. She's about taking an idea and manifesting ideas. She's about problem solving, not problem passing. She's not one of those folks that go out and just hold hands and talk about the way the world should be. She's actually going to do something about it. She's going to roll up her sleeves and get out there and make the decisions, right? I mean, isn't it just a fundamental truth? It's not conditions that determine our fate and future, it's decisions. I think Oliver Wendell Holmes, I'm watching all the same Supreme Court stuff you are, with all that anxiety that all of us are feeling, particularly all my friends at Planned Parenthood. By the way, big round of applause to Planned Parenthood. I love the big service. Everything you're about. There's a great, beautiful wife. It's right, but there was a great, by the way, Supreme Court Justice by the name of Oliver Wendell Holmes, who once said, his life is action and passion. As life is action and passion. Each of us will be judged and ultimately judge ourselves to the extent we contribute to the life of our city, our county, our nation, and the world we're trying to build. Life is action and passion.
Absolutely.
That's what Sharon is about. Action and passion. Decades of public service on behalf of our children. As a public educator, as a champion for our children, our youth, and our families. Get Sharon back in Sacramento for another term. She deserves it. She deserves it. And by the way, I love Britain. I love someone that stepped up, gets elected, gets knocked out, and has the courage to step right back and win. That's leadership. That's faith of Israel. We need that. You know, I mean, Cottie, this is just incredible. The energy. Where'd she come from? Where'd she? I mean, it's like Obama or something. We got Cottie hats over there. We got, you know, it's like a little cult thing going on in Orange County. That's why I came down here. I had to see what was going on. There's something big happening here. Right? Yeah, someone just say, yeah, orange is the new blue. I love that. All of it doesn't matter much. You know, it's one thing's about winning. Winning's not about being, it's about doing. I mean, you get a theme here, right? And this issue of poverty drives my why. I want us to collectively commit to a cause. And one thing that connects the two that we are here to celebrate in terms of getting them as far as we have at this moment is the issue of our children. And I want to just very briefly, because I'm sensitive to the heat and your time, say something that is profoundly important to me and to my wife of 4 children. 85% of the brain is fully formed by the time you're just 3 years old. I want to repeat that, because you need to repeat this. 85% of our brains, each and every one of us in this room, is fully formed by age of 3. You know the number one predictor of whether or not you're going to end up in the criminal justice system? The number one predictor is how many words you speak in kindergarten. That's that 32 million word gap. High income family, that child hears 45 million words by the time they're 4. Low income family, just 13 million words. 32 million word gap. I just was literally in Long Beach this morning at the CSU Board of Trustees. We were talking about the achievement gap. We all talk about the achievement gap. We were talking about everyone being left behind, particularly African Americans and Latinos, as it relates to the challenge we have in front of us as institutions of higher learning, but also as a state, dealing with those disparities. Income inequality, wealth inequality, social mobility, the issues of an achievement gap. But it's not the achievement gap. It's a readiness gap. People aren't left behind, they start behind. Half the births in California are Medi-Cal births. Half the births are children born into poverty. If we're not focused on prenatal programs, then we're not serious about addressing these disparities. Personal visits, early head start, universal preschool, providing child care, family, paid leave, and developmental necessity. That's an agenda for Orange County and the state of California. You've got to begin at the beginning. That should be a cause that unites all of us in the spirit of Cottie, Democrats and Republicans. Because at the end of the day, the one thing we all have in common, we love our children. We love our children. And the only way we can rise together is by addressing those first key precious years. That's the architecture of life. Billions of neurons exploding, and they start to prune by the age of 4. You start getting rid of those connections if they're not utilized. Forgive me for being long-winded on this, but it's a biological, not just developmental necessity. Maybe that's just being a dumb young dad. It's going to happen to you guys one day. You'll start to appreciate this. But I am committed to working with these two outstanding leaders as your next governor of California to begin to address the issues most systemically. Let me close by just saying this. Let's not run the 90-yard dash. As Cottie said, we got 50 plus days to go. 55 days to go. I don't want you to wake up on day 56, 57, open up your little smartphone. Used to go out front and pick up the morning paper. Now you open up your smartphone and read the morning news and find out we ran the 90-yard dash. We ran short. Let's not dream of regretting. The future is not just something to experience. It's something to manifest. The future is not just in front of you, it's inside of you. Everything you've done to date is special and significant. You've gotten these two people as far as you've gotten, but it means nothing if we don't get them over the finish line. So thank you for all the work you've done today.